Hey there YouTube! My last reading wrap up was in August, so I'm here today to give you mini reviews of everything I've read since then. Since my last reading wrap up, I have read 7 books and I participated in 2 readathons. I read 2 graphic novels and listened to 2 audiobooks. And 2 of the books that I read during this time are new releases. So let's start with the readathons. The first readathon that I participated in was the I Suck at Readathons readathon back in August, I think it was. But this was a super simple, like, low-key readathon, and I did complete all of the challenges except for one. I didn't finish the smallest book on my shelf. I started that book, but I wasn't able to finish it within the week of the readathon, but I did end up finishing it. So the first book that I read for that challenge was Tsubasa, Reservoir Chronicles, Omnibus number 5. I've been talking about this series a lot. I think these come up a lot in hauls and wrap-ups because I am trying to make my way through this series. This is a series by Clamp and it's kind of an alternate universe adventure story that draws on a lot of characters and worlds from Clamp's previous works. So if you're like a fan of Clamp, then this is definitely like a must read. It's super confusing, and this volume here starts, I think, the really confusing plot line, but it's definitely worth a read, especially if you love Clamp's works or if you love like Cardcaptor Sakura. Because the 2 main characters in here are Sakura and Shaoran. There are versions of the Sakura and Shaoran from Cardcaptor Sakura. But this volume is really good. So the first bit of it, you get some backstory on the character of Kurogane, and you get kind of his childhood and like see how he came to be like the silent, gruff person that he is today. And the rest of it is very good, and I don't really want to talk about it a lot because it is kind of spoilers for it, but they do visit a really interesting world. It's kind of a post-apocalyptic sort of Tokyo where all of the rain is poisonous, so water is very precious, and there's something about the water. So definitely really liked this. I believe I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Other book that I read during the I Sat Rat readathon was Oversea Under Stone by Susan Cooper. This is the first book in the Darkest Rising sequence, a series that I've been talking about a lot recently just because it's so nostalgic and it's like one of my favorite series from my childhood. So I really like this book. It was really nostalgic for me. It is a reread because I did read it when I was in about like 6th grade. But being that it was so long ago that I did read it, I didn't remember so much about it, like the finer details about it. But this series it's so good. Like, this is kind of more of a simple, like, children's adventure story. One thing I do want to say about this book is that it is definitely a product of its time. It came out in the 60s, and you can kind of tell that with a few things. There are a few instances, just like words that they'll use for different races, and there is an instance where one of the bad guys does some brown face. It doesn't last super long. It's kind of a smaller moment in this. I just wanted to put a little warning on that, but otherwise this is a great story. One of the things I really like about this is that the magic isn't so like overt. It's kind of like the characters feel something weird happening and they don't know why that happened. It's kind of more of a natural, like, mysterious magic. The book has a lot to do with Arthurian legend. The main quest for these children is that they have a treasure map to find King Arthur's Holy Grail, or what they think is to be King Arthur's Holy Grail. And they go and find it because it is apparently buried in the town that they're vacationing at with their family. It's excellent. I love this series so much and I can't wait to read the rest. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars, I think. Next, I read 2 audiobooks, and that was The Winner's Crime and The Winner's Kiss by Marie Rakotsky. I think I talked about this a little bit in my video about my relationship with audiobooks, but I really wasn't feeling these books too much. So The Winner's, I always get the titles of these books messed up too. So The Winner's Crime is the second book in the series. After I finished this audiobook, I kind of felt like nothing really happened, but it's a lot of like political intrigue and like mind games, things like that. So I think that's kind of why I felt like nothing really happened, is because it wasn't really action-based, it was more like conversation based. Also, you don't get much interaction between our 2 main characters of Kestrel and Arin, who are like They're the main couple of this series, and you don't really get a lot of action between the two of them, so that's a little bit disappointing, but it is all going somewhere. I think my biggest problem in this series is probably the character of Aaron. I feel like he doesn't listen to Kestrel very much. A lot of the problems that he and Kestrel and the other characters around him face are because he is not listening to people very well. He's impulsive and he's angry for a lot of the second book, and it really just kind of doesn't make for a good male character. I didn't really like him that much. I liked him in the first one, but I don't think I liked him in the second two. I think I gave both of these books 3 out of 5 stars. I just don't know if this was the direction that I was hoping that the rest of the series would go after I finished the first book. The next book that I read was finally Tower of Dawn by Sarah J. Maas. So this is the 6th book, or like the 5th parallel book to the Throne of Glass series. This book is all about my boy Cale Westfall. So as you can see, I took a lot of notes. I was gonna make a full review video of this book, but by the time I was like kind of getting around to it, a lot of people have already made book reviews of this, like full video reviews of this, and I don't really know if like people will be interested in that. If you want to see, like, if you want to hear my extended thoughts on Tower of Dawn, then let me know in the comments, and maybe I'll make a video like that, or I will just write a long, extensive Goodreads review. But in short, I love this book. It surprised me so much. I was so worried because the last bit of the Throne of Glass series is not great, but I can happily say that Tower of Dawn is amazing and it is so good, and I am so happy that like Cale got like the justice that he deserves, because I was like, I'm still mad that I had to sit all the way through Empire of Storms with no Cale at all. This book does a really good job of disabled representation. I'm very surprised that Sarah J. Maas did such a good job with the representation with this and depicting like what it's like to be a disabled person. So that is the like #1 like great thing about this book, is that the representation is done very well. Still lacking in a few other areas in the series, but at least that was really great. Love that this book was a like basically a character study on Cale, because he has been through a lot, and like a lot has been thrown on its head for him, and just him working through all of that and learning to deal with how he reacted to things, how he treated people, was really good to see. I am always going to be in the Cale fan club, and I'm glad that we have this book to kind of show his character a little bit more and show that he is a real person. Like, that's what I love about Cale so much, is because like he's like a real person and he has reactions in like a real way. I played a fun game while reading this book, and it was making a tab anytime there was like gratuitous depictions of Cale's body, and there was a lot of them. I believe those are the purple tabs on here, and I missed a few in the beginning. If there's one thing Sarah J. Maas likes to do, and that is describing muscled men. I gave Tower of Dawn by Sarah J. Maas 4 out of 5 stars. The next readathon that I participated in was the Spookathon, and this was like a Halloween-based readathon in October, and I kind of dropped the ball on this. I had 3 books in my TBR, and I only read 2 and a little bit. Not even gonna say 2 and a half. First book that I read for the Spookathon was Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. And not a scary book, but it is a book with orange on the cover, which was one of the challenges for the readathon. So I read it. It came out like right before it, so I wanted to read it right away. This is a book about a girl who has OCD, and there is kind of a plot to find a missing millionaire, and she's friends with like the millionaire's son. This book is basically about the main character Aza and her OCD. It's basically a character study. The actual plot in this book was a little bit unrealistic and underdeveloped, but the plot really wasn't the actual plot or point of this book. It's basically a character study. This book made me think and feel a lot of things. It made me reflect and think about my own anxiety and depression. I don't have OCD personally, but I do have a little bit of depression and anxiety, and it kind of made me think about my reactions, other people's reactions to that, and my own experiences in my life. So it did a good job of making me think about my own life. I know this book is good. I know it's a good and it's an important book. And John Green writes good books, and I like John Green books, but I haven't read a lot of contemporaries lately, and maybe that's part of the problem, but I feel like I don't love this book as much as other people do. Maybe it's because I like a little bit more plot, or that book was just very difficult to read. And not that it's like a hard book to read, it's just there's a lot of heavy stuff going on in this book. It's a very difficult book to read in that sense. It's not like I don't like books that are character studies or dealing with heavy topics. One of the books that's probably gonna be my favorite book of the year is like that. But I just didn't really connect with this book, I think, as a lot of other people did. But I think that's fine. That's fine, right? I still gave it 4 stars because I know that this is a good book. The next book that I read for Spookathon was a graphic novel, and that was Friends with Boys by Faith Erin Hicks. This is a graphic novel about a girl who is going to high school for the first time. She's been homeschooled and she has 3 older brothers, and she is now joining them in high school. There is a bit of a ghost story in this. There is a ghost that our main character can see. But as I was reading this, I didn't really see where the ghost story really played a major part. This graphic novel could have done without the ghost in it, and it would have been a great coming of age story, a story about family and siblings and brothers and making friends and going to high school. That's really what this book is about. And then there's like a ghost thrown in. The art in this is really cool. I really like the art style, and the story was really nice. I've had some friends tell me that they really like this author, so I am thinking about going to check out some more of their works. So I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. And those are all the books that I have read since August. It's like August, September, and October, the last 3 months. So for an update on my reading goal, I plan to read 50 books this year, and I have read 36. And it's already October. Oh god, it's not October anymore. Finish up my reading goal and actually make it this year. I need to really book it. A few books that I have started and haven't finished it. Genuine Fraud is one example. I also started A Gathering of Shadows. I think I'm like halfway through that and I haven't finished it. I need to pick that up. I also started Warcross by Marie Lu the other day. Really need to finish that. That's turning out to be really great. So hopefully I can kind of just like sit down and like read the next few weeks. If I can just read like 40 books this year, that would be really great. So that's all I have for my reading wrap up. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments if you have read any of these books, what you thought of them, things like that. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more bookish content from me. That's all I've got for you guys today. I'm Chrissy Lou. Till next time, mata ne!